Sir, if you could remove your hat, please. Thank you.
No.
Yeah, he did. That's the fear thing too. I got a presentation social media.
Thanks, viewers.
I could put some.
Takes it out of you. Oh my God, man. It's mine. Person is mine thinks it's true.
All rise. 60 working hour twos. You may be seated.
We are back on the record in the People of the State of Michigan versus Jeffrey Thomas Willis. The file number is 16180-186-FY. We are continuing the preliminary examination on this matter. And I believe, Mr. Hilson, are you ready with your next witness?
I am, Judge. Thank you. People of the state of Michigan call Corporal Joel Hoeksma to the stand.
Raise your hand. And I now think those perfect times to tell truth, whole truth, and nothing but truth. Okay. I do. And please state your name for the record and your actual.
Corporal Joel Hoeksma, Norton Shores Police Department.
Spell your last name, please.
Hoeksema.
Corporal Hoeksma, what department do you work for?
Norton Shores.
And how many years have you been a member of the Norton Shores Police Department?
About 13.
Directing your attention to April 26, 2013, were you on duty that particular evening?
I was.
And do you recall being dispatched to the Exxon station located on Sternberg Road?
I do.
Now, that particular location, is that in the county of Muskegon,
Yes.
state of Michigan?
Yes.
And when you arrived on scene, were there other officers present?
There was one officer who was on scene prior to me.
All right. When you got there, did you kind of do a review or kind of observations of the scene itself?
I did.
And could you describe for the court what you observed?
I observed the gas station to have all the lights on, background music playing. Everything appeared normal with the exception there was no employee on scene.
Now, were you able to, as you walked around the inside of the store, did it look as though there had been any kind of disturbance, like a struggle or a fight or anything of that nature?
No, I saw nothing of that nature.
And did you observe any personal belongings?
I did. I observed a jacket or a coat as well as a purse belonging to the employee.
Now, did you get an opportunity to, I guess, look inside the purse to determine who it might belong to or of that nature?
I really don't recall if I looked into the purse, if I did or another officer did, and that officer informed me.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: was a determination made as to whose purse that was?
Yes, it was the victim's purse.
Jessica Heeringa?
Yes.
How about the contents of the purse? Was there money in the purse?
I don't recall if there was money in the purse.
Okay. Now, outside of that, what was your role at this particular scene?
Just assisting with the activity at the scene. Primarily, I was at the back of the gas station.
Okay. I want to just go through, see in front of you, some photographs, starting with People's Exhibit 1. What is this a picture of?
That's a photo from the inside of the gas station looking at the back door.
And when you looked at or observed the inside, it looks like there's a trash can there, maybe like a dustpan of some kind. Is that how it looked when you saw it?
Yes, with the exception of in the photograph, the door is propped open just a few inches. It was closed when I had initially responded to the scene.
Okay, fair enough. People's Exhibit 2, what are we looking at here?
It's a cash drawer that I found sitting on top of a safe in the back room of the gas station.
And it appears as though, there's quite a few bills there and several coins. Is that correct?
Yes, there was some money in there.
And it appears as though bills of all denominations, including maybe 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s?
Yes, I did not count it, but it certainly appears that way.
Did it to you when you observed it when you were there look to be disturbed at all?
No, it just appeared as though someone had simply set it on top of the safe.
All right. People's Exhibit 3, what are we looking at in this photograph?
That's another photo of the back room of the store with the victim's coat and purse seen there sitting on the box, it appears.
Okay, so the purse itself is just to the right of that black, I don't know if it's a bag or something like that?
Yes.
All right, and the coat obviously is that purple coat?
Yes.
That door and in the picture, do you know where that goes to?
That goes to a smaller office within the back area of the store right there.
Okay, so it doesn't lead to the outside or anything?
No.
People's Exhibit 5, what are we looking at in this photograph?
This is outside the back of the gas station looking at the rear door.
And again, you already made mention of this, but the door appears to be propped open, and that is not how you found it that particular night. Is that
That's correct.
All right. People's Exhibit 6, what are we looking at in this photograph?
The parking lot area behind the gas station?
Okay. For reference, in the kind of the far right-hand corner there, is that the Points Mall?
It is, yes.
Okay. And do you recall, Corporal, when you got there, was it lit up like this?
Yes, it was just like this.
Okay. Now, you said you spent some time in the back area of the gas station.
Yes.
In your, I guess, observations of the back area, did you discover anything that you felt might be of some evidentiary value?
I did.
What did you find?
I found 2 small batteries, like watch-sized batteries, a cover to a laser sight, as well as what appeared to be a blood stain.
All right. People's Exhibit, I believe this is 7. What are we looking at in this photograph?
This shows multiple things. It includes the battery cover to the laser sight, the 2 batteries, as well as a blood stain.
Now, I'm gonna try this out with you. I've been told that particular screen is, you can either circle stuff, or if you touch something, an arrow points to it.
Okay.
So do the best that you can, but if you could point out by maybe just tapping where the 2 batteries are in the battery cover, see if it works.
Kind of made a little mark on it.
Okay.
Roughly the 2 batteries there.
Okay. And the battery cover? All right. Now, and you may have indicated this already, but did you also find a blood stain?
Yes.
And could you point that out too, please? Okay. And did you in fact collect those as evidence?
I did.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll start with that. Show you what's marked as People's Exhibit 62. Take a look at that, please. Can you describe what that is, please?
This is the 2 small batteries that I collected.
Okay. And you indicated they were kind of watch-sized batteries?
Yes.
All right. Keep this one, too. All right, showing you what's marked as People's Exhibit 63. Can you tell me what that is, please?
That's the battery cover for the laser sight that I collected.
Okay. People's Exhibit 8, it's a close-up of the bloodstain, is that correct?
Yes.
You can actually, if you tap the Microsoft sign, it'll clear that other stuff.
I just have there's no icons or
There's no
anything.
icon?
No.
I think on his left side of the monitor, there should be a button that he can clear it with.
There we go. All right, that's a close-up of the bloodstain?
Correct.
Is that correct? Your Honor, for the sake of, I might as well put this stipulation on. Mr. Hoskin and I are stipulating that that particular bloodstain found at the scene does belong to Jessica Heeringa, that is her blood, through DNA testing.
So stipulated.
I accept
For
that.
purposes of the preliminary exam, Judge.
All right.
And then, People's Exhibit 9, what are we looking at in that?
It's a close-up of the battery cover for the laser sight.
And it contains the term Carl Walther, is that right?
Yes.
And that's a close-up of what you've identified in People's Exhibit 63, is that correct?
Yes.
That's number one, Mr. Hilton.
63, Judge. Now, did you do any...
The photo, I'm sorry, the photo is 63 or?
No, the actual cover itself is 63. The photo is, I'll tell you here in just a second, Judge. Photo is 9.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, upon that discovery, did you do any research or background as to whether or not you could further make any identification based off of that battery cover?
I did.
What did you do?
I just did an internet search. I think I just Googled the wording on there to see what would come up, and I found that that was a battery cover for a laser sight manufactured for Walther pistols.
Okay. Did the numbers or anything on there give you anything or mean anything as far as being able to track it to a particular site or a particular gun?
No, not that I could find out.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibits 1 through 9 to the photographs.
No objection.
There being no objection to People's Exhibits 1 through 9, they will be admitted into evidence. Those are all photographs, right?
Yes. I'd also move for the admission of People's 62 and 63, which are the batteries and the cover itself, the actual batteries and the actual cover.
For purposes of the preliminary exam, Judge, I don't object.
There being no objection to People's proposed 62 and 63, they will be admitted as evidence.
Other than that, Corporal, did you do anything else in this particular case?
No.
Thank you. I have nothing else, Judge.
Mr. Hoskin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Hilson, could we have People's Exhibit number 5 back up there, please?
Yes. Five. Is that the one?
Yes.
Okay.
Afternoon, officer. Questions about the pictures and what you found as it relates to the back door, okay?
Yep.
Can we see any of the evidence that you found outside the back of the Exxon store in this picture?
It's in the frame, but it's not visible because of the small size.
Okay. I do see stains on the ground on in this picture, but none of those are the blood stain that you identified, and I believe it was People's Exhibit. Was the stain 9?
The blood stain is too small to be seen in this photograph here.
Okay. So how big was it? Was it about the size of a $50 or smaller?
I'd say it's roughly 2 to 3 inches in size.
Okay. And you were the second officer on the scene, correct?
Yes.
Officer Ginka was the first officer on scene?
Yes.
Do you know how long after Officer Ginka arrived that you arrived?
I don't know exactly. Moments. I mean, just a few minutes. 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. Do you know what time you arrived?
I don't know the exact time, no.
When you went out the back door, I think you said that you were located in the back of the store for the most part doing your investigation?
Yes.
Does that mean Officer Ginka was walking around the front and looking at the front?
Once we got to the point where I concentrated my efforts in the back, there were other officers on scene. doing things at the front of the gas station. I was stationed in the back, monitoring the evidence here.
Were you the one that discovered the evidence that we just saw?
Yes.
Okay, and how long after you arrived did you find the evidence we just saw?
I don't know the exact amount of time. When I arrived, I walked in and I looked around the gas station again with Officer Ginka, going through all the coolers, and we waited for someone to arrive to get into that back office. We thought maybe Jessica was in the office and had a medical condition. So when that back office got opened up and we found that it was empty, and then I believe Officer Ginka started talking to others, and then I just started looking around and eventually came upon it.
Okay. When you came upon the blood stain, it was dry, correct?
It appeared to be, yes.
What do you mean it appeared to be?
I didn't touch it to feel if it was still tacky or anything. By looks, it appeared to be dry.
Did you collect the blood?
I did.
How did you collect it?
I used a cotton swab with purified water, 4 separate cotton swabs that our department provides, and then packaged those in boxes and placed them in evidence.
Okay, so you could have been able to tell if it was still wet.
Well, I wet the cotton swabs with water, and then I apply that to the stain so it becomes wet. I mean, it wasn't tacky and thick or anything, but...
You had to rub it to get some
Correct.
some off the ground.
Yes.
And what did you do with the swab?
They were packaged in evidence boxes and then ultimately put in an envelope and then evidence at the police department.
Did you package it in the box?
I did.
And what did you do with the box?
Each cotton swab gets placed in a very small box, and then I took those boxes, placed them in an envelope, and then they get placed into evidence at our police department.
Did you place them into evidence?
Yes.
Okay, so there were 4 swabs,
Yes.
4 boxes
Yes.
in 1 envelope.
Correct.
Could we have, give us,
Which picture do you
scroll through, take a look at 7 and then 8. Okay, right there.
Right there?
Yeah. Officer, there's tire tracks in that picture.
Yes.
Did you give that any significance?
No.
Why?
They appear to be old, and they're just kind of part of the old concrete. There wasn't anything fresh or new about those tire tracks.
Okay. Would you say that the blood stain was directly north? And as you walk through the back door to the outside of the Exxon station, that's walking north, right?
Yes.
Was it directly north of the door?
I don't remember its exact position in relation to the door.
Okay, in none of these pictures you can tell that?
If you go up to one of the ones that are more of a full view, I might be able to kind of see the area, but I don't recall specifically where it was in relation to the door. It was just out in that general area.
How about that picture?
I think in this picture I can see the battery cover.
Can you do that little circle thing on it that you did on the other pictures? Okay.
It appears to be the battery. It's not, the circle's not directly over it, but
Can we see the door in that picture?
yeah, it's right there on the left.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
I have nothing else, Judge, thank you.
Right. And I have no questions. Corporal, thank you very much. May the witness be excused. Mr. Hills.
Yes.
Mr. Hostica.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're excused, Corporal. Thank you.
Your Honor, the people of the state of Michigan call Corporal Chris Hare.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Matter not being opposed, party some sort of tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I did.
Have a seat, state your name.
Christopher Hare. I'm a police officer for the city of Norton Shores.
Morning.
Morning, Your Honor.
You mentioned six, sir.
Afternoon.
It's Corporal, right? I got that right?
Correct.
Corporal Hare, what department do you work for?
Norton Shores Police Department.
Probably just said that, didn't you?
I did. That's okay.
How many years?
21.
And I want to direct your attention to April 26, 2013, the Jessica Heeringa abduction. Were you part of, or were you assisting, I guess, the task force in their investigation after her disappearance?
I was.
And in what capacity were you assisting the task force?
I was assigned to gather information on tips.
All right. I want to talk to you about a specific tip. Tip 268. Are you familiar with that tip?
I am.
And why are you familiar with that tip?
I recall the incident, and it, as I've learned now, it deals directly with Mr. Willis.
And was that a tip that you were assigned to follow up on?
It was.
And these tips were they were anonymous, were they not?
Some of them.
All right. And I can't remember if this tip was a silent observer tip or...
It came through business.
Okay. Which business?
Starbucks.
And do you recall the nature of the tip that you received?
That a gentleman that goes by the name of Willis generally comes through their drive-through in a silver minivan, and he generally wore a red shirt.
Okay. Now, do you recall specifically what date you were assigned to follow up on that tip?
The date of the assignment for me to follow up on the tip would have been May 7th,
Of 2013?
2013 is.
Okay. And as a result of that tip, were you able to track down where this individual that drives the silver minivan, were you able to track down where this person lives?
I was.
All right. And what address did you, I guess, tie to that person?
1842 South Sheridan, if I recall correctly.
Okay. And in fact, did you end up going to 1842 South Sheridan to try and make contact with Mr. Willis?
I did.
Now, were you by yourself or were you with somebody else?
I was with a partner,
Who was that?
Sergeant Todd Baker.
I want to show you real quick here. Photograph. People's Exhibit 13. It's on your screen there.
Yes.
Do you recognize that house?
Yes, I do.
And where is that? The house at 1842 South Sheridan?
That is the house I located at 1842 South Sheridan with Sergeant Baker.
All right. Now, in this picture, are we looking at the front of the house?
This would be the front.
And when you arrived at that location, did you make contact with somebody identifying themselves as Jeffrey Willis?
Yes, we did.
And I want to back up and ask one question. Did you observe a silver minivan in the driveway, garage?
We did.
Okay. When you made contact with Mr. Willis, where was that at?
At his front door on the porch.
All right. So again, in People's Exhibit 13, that wooden porch there, you're at the front door?
Correct.
And when you were able to make contact with Mr. Willis, did he indicate whether or not he was the only one home at the time?
I actually asked him if anybody else was at home, and he said no, he was alone.
All right. And did you talk to him, I guess, did you follow up on the tip first and foremost?
I did.
All right. And did you talk to him about his familiarity with the Exxon station on Sternberg?
I did.
And what did he tell you about that?
That he does frequent the Exxon station on Sternberg Road.
Did he indicate that he was there on April 26th
He did, of 2013.
of 2013? Did he tell you what time, approximately?
Approximately 5 p.m.
Now, did he also indicate whether or not he knew Jessica Heeringa, the clerk?
He said he did know Jessica.
And did you ask kind of get a timeline from him for that evening. Did he tell you where he was during the hours of 9:30-ish until 12:30 the next morning, which would be the 27th?
At that time, he indicated, following a timeline, I asked him, he said he was at the Exxon at 5 p.m. He then left there and went to a card shop where he played some card games, where he left at about 9:30 p.m. He arrived home at about 9:45, going northbound on US 31 to his house on South Sheridan, and he was at home from 9:45 p.m. until 12:30 a.m. the following day.
Okay. So if I understand you right, the only time that he was away from home was between that hour of 5 p.m. and when he left this card place at 9:30 p.m.
Correct.
All right. And he told you, Mr. Willis has told you he was home at his house on Sheridan from 9:30 p.m. until 12:30 a.m. the next day, which would be the 27th.
Correct.
Did he indicate to you what he did at 12:30, where he went, what he was doing?
He said he went to his deceased grandfather's home on Bailey Street, which would be in the city of Norton Shores. He went to get a piece of wood to fix or build onto his dog kennel.
Okay. So Mr. Willis indicated to you then that at 12:30 a.m., which would be the 27th, he left his house on Sheridan, correct?
Correct?
Went to Bailey.
Correct. I believe that's 3038
Bailey, to get some wood to build a dog kennel.
Correct. And he actually pointed to the piece of wood that was on his deck.
Okay. Did he indicate to you if he had any registered firearms?
He did.
And what did he tell you about that?
He had an AEI 380 registered in his name,
And were you able to confirm that?
just through his verbal,
Okay.
as far as I recall.
Did you get any other information from Mr. Willis?
In regards to,
Just in general. Did he offer any other information as it relates to the Heeringa investigation or anything of that nature?
just some questions I asked him about his van,
Okay.
and he responded with some of those.
And did you, in fact, get a chance to inspect the vehicle in question?
We did.
I want to back up here and show you People's Exhibits 10, 11, and 12. Look at 10, 11.
Plate that I observed in the driveway of 1842 South Sheridan.
All right. And I'm assuming top to back, and can you describe for the court the inspection you did in the back?
We opened up the back, he opened up the back, and we looked through it. It was very clean, like to the point where there were vacuum mark lines still in the carpet. It smelled of cleaning product. He advised that he had just had it detailed because he just purchased it a month prior from Flickham Auto in Grand Rapids, and the day they took it, it had not been detailed yet, so they had returned to Flickham at a later date and had it detailed because it smelled of smoke.
All right. So he indicated to you he had just purchased the van in April of 13
Correct.
and had just recently gotten it detailed.
Yes.
Now, did you also inquire about having him, or I guess looking for consent to have you look at his cell phone?
I did.
And what was Mr. Willis's response to that?
He said that he did not have his cell phone at home. His wife currently had it with her.
And as far as you knew, his wife was not at home?
Correct.
Because that's what Mr. Willis told you.
It is.
Corporal, is the individual you talked to back in May of 2013, is he in the courtroom?
He is.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing, please?
He's seated at the defense table in the orange attire.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will reflect an identification.
And just so the exhibits 10, 11, 12, and 13, are those fair and accurate representations of both the van and the house?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, I'd also move for the admissions of 10, 11, 12, and 13 photographs.
And 13? Did you say 10, 11, 12, 13?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No objection.
There being no objection to people's proposed exhibits 10, 11, 12, and 13, those items will be admitted into the record as evidence.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Judge.
Cross, Mr. Hostica.
Thank you, Your Honor. Afternoon, Corporal Hare.
Good afternoon, sir.
That's some impressive recollection you have there for something that happened 3.5 years ago. I assume you looked at your report to refresh your recollection before testifying here today?
I did.
Okay. And writing police reports, that's something you learned back in the academy, right?
Correct.
And the purpose of writing police reports are partially so you can remember the thing you investigated, correct?
Correct.
And it's also meant to assist people like me, defense attorneys, and people like Mr. Hilson, prosecutors, in preparation for their case, right?
Correct.
Okay. And it's important that they be accurate
Yes.
and detailed.
I'd agree, yes.
Okay. Now this report, you did write a report on this search of Mr. Willis's van and this visit with him back on May 7th of 2013, right?
Yes, we filled out, yes.
Yeah. And you wrote that report October 21st of 2016.
Correct.
You waited 3.5 years to write a report of the conversations you just related here today in court with Mr. Willis in the search of his van.
Correct.
Okay. And Officer Baker also filed a report, although it's in Lieutenant Casher's name at the top, but it's signed Sergeant Baker at the end. He also filed a report, right? You know that?
I am unaware.
You didn't know that? Because it's the same date as the report that you submitted, October 21st of 2016.
Okay.
You didn't see his report?
I have not.
Would it surprise you to know that it's practically a mirror reflection of your report, almost word for word?
Wouldn't surprise me, we were both at the same interview.
Oh, okay. What does that mean at the same interview? With the interview with Mr. Willis?
We were both standing right there as I asked the questions.
Okay, did you get together and talk about everything before you wrote your reports?
In October?
Yeah, October 21st, 2016, when you wrote the reports about the story you're telling us here today.
We had discussed many times over the years since 2013 the events of the interview with Mr. Willis.
Did you take notes during the interview with Mr. Willis?
We took notes, and
Right.
that was those were submitted on the tip sheet that were put into the computer, which we then drafted our report in October of 2016 from.
You put notes in a tip sheet.
Yes.
And that's something electronic, you said?
No, it was a written carbon tip sheet that was turned into a basket that was entered into a computer, which we later used to type our report.
Did you enter it into the computer?
I did not.
Okay, so you just hand wrote notes that you threw in a basket for someone else to enter onto a computer?
Correct.
Okay. And then you look at this tip sheet 3.5 years later and you write your report?
Yes.
Okay. Where are those notes that you put in the basket?
I don't know where they went after I put them in the basket. You would have to ask the person that entered that into the computer where that sheet went after that.
Who entered it into the computer?
I do not know who actually entered that section of those notes into the computer.
So 3.5 years later, you're trying to recall your conversations with Mr. Willis and checking his van, and you look on a computer tip sheet with information that's listed there?
I recall the incident very clearly.
You do.
I do.
Do you recall seeing Charlene Willis that day?
No.
Charlene is Mr. Willis's wife, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall leaving her a message that she did not need to contact you?
I don't recall.
But you remember
Was it a
everything else?
phone message?
I believe it was a phone message.
I don't recall. Possibly.
When you appeared at Mr. Willis's house in May of 2013, you didn't advertise the fact you were coming, did you?
No.
You didn't call him ahead of time?
Not that I recall.
You didn't contact Charlene Willis ahead of time?
Not that I recall.
You just appeared at his door, correct?
We woke him up, so I'm assuming we appeared at his door, yes, without being announced.
Okay.
We had not made an appointment to meet him.
Okay. And he complied with all your requests?
He did?
Opened up his van?
He did?
Now you're well trained, I take it, in searching automobiles because of your duties as a police officer?
My training and experience, correct.
Okay. So you and Deputy Baker searched that van?
Sergeant Baker?
Sergeant Baker?
We did.
Okay. And you searched carefully?
We did.
And you searched thoroughly?
We did.
And you searched completely?
We did.
No boxes?
It was empty
Completely empty?
and clean.
Do you recall, I assume you do, because you remember everything else, whether Mr. Willis had a beard and a mustache on that day?
I do not recall.
Do you remember what he was wearing by any chance?
No.
He was quite heavy set back then, correct?
He was of my height, is what I remember, looking eye to eye with him.
You don't remember even if he was heavy set on the...
My heavy set and
How
your
do you put
heavy
this
set might be
delicately?
different.
What's that?
I said he may have been heavier than I was.
Heavier than he is now, right?
I can't really see him that well right now. I haven't seen him for a while. He's seated, and there's a pillar in the way.
May he stand up and come around, Judge? Sure. Come here, Mr. Willis.
I would say similar.
In other words, you don't remember.
No, I would say similar.
When you investigate these tips, silent observer or whatever kind of tips, do you separate what you think is significant and what you would write a report about and what you think is insignificant and you would just throw in a basket?
I would put notes that what I thought was relevant in our interview from the questions that I would ask.
Do you ever write your own reports right after something happens?
I've never
Silent
investigated a
observer
case
tips?
of this nature before.
You never investigated a silent observer tip and wrote a report right after? Rather than throw some notes in a basket?
Not in a case of this magnitude, sir.
Okay. Well, in a case of this magnitude, it's important that you remember the things you're investigating right away.
I do remember.
Okay, and part of your training as a police officer that you learned back in the academy is that you write a report as soon after something happens as you can, so you can recall the events, because a memory of something recent is better than looking back on something over the course of years. Wouldn't you agree?
Judge, I'm going to object to the question because I think maybe it's a little confusing or mischaracterization on Mr. Hoska's part. Corporal Hare has indicated he did actually take notes that was actually typewritten in a tip, which I know for a fact he has in his possession. And so, in essence, he did write a report. So I guess I'm confused.
So what's your objection, Mr.?
My objection is, one, it's argumentative. Two, it's irrelevant or not relevant, given the fact that Corporal Hare has already testified that after he met with the defendant, he took notes, he handed it over to the person who was responsible for typewriting all the notes for the hundreds of tips they received, and moved on to the next tip. So I guess to mischaracterize the fact that he didn't write a report, it may not be in the fashion that we're used to seeing, but he absolutely wrote a report. He testified to that. So I guess I don't, the question itself has somewhat been asked and answered, and is not relevant.
Mr. Hoska?
He has no report. He did not write a report on the date of the incident. My question was only, is he not trained to write a report, especially in a case this significant, as soon as he can after something happens, so he can have the best possible recollection?
I'll allow that question.
Isn't that true?
I did that.
No, you didn't. You took notes.
Yes, I did that.
All right, okay, hang on a second. Mr. Hoska, I'm not going to allow you to argue with him. You asked a question, and he answered the question, and you get to ask as many questions as you want,
Okay.
but you don't get to testify.
Great. Thank you, Your Honor. I have no
welcome.
further questions.
Just so we're clear here, Corporal Hare, you met with the defendant.
I did.
Upon that, you and Sergeant Baker wrote some notes down based off your conversation with the defendant.
We did.
And, you know, my understanding is there were thousands of tips
There were.
when Jessica went missing.
There were.
And if I understand correctly, as you were moving through all these tips, officers were taking notes and they were being submitted to be typewritten.
Correct. That was procedure on a tip sheet that was turned in to be entered into the computer data system to be added to a report.
So I understand that your report doesn't look like the garden variety police report that we have
It does
on
not.
a daily basis.
Correct.
But did you write a report right after talking with Mr. Willis?
I did.
And in fact, did you review that written report prior to you writing an official report when Mr. Willis became a suspect in this case?
I did.
Now, was Mr. Willis a high target suspect in 2013?
No.
Did he become a high target suspect in 2016?
He did.
Did your tip become somewhat significant? Your investigation of that tip back in 2013 become somewhat significant in 2016?
Very much so.
And is that when you wrote your report?
It is.
And is the information in that report also contained in the typewritten documentation of the tip?
It is.
I have nothing else, Judge.
And I have no questions. May Corporal Hare be excused. Mr. Hilson.
Yes.
Mr. Hoska.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your
Corporal
Honor.
Hare, you are excused.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the people of the state of Michigan call Carl Ware to the stand.
Go ahead and raise your hand. And now, any close party, some swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yep.
Go ahead and have a
Well,
seat.
hang on a second. Is that a yes or a no?
I do.
Okay. I don't, I know what yup means, but it's hard for the recorder to, is that yup, no, nah, nah?
I apologize.
Yeah, just yes or no.
All right.
Thank you.
Have you seen your name for record and spare last name, please?
My name is Waller, Carl.
Your first name's Carl?
Yes.
Second name, or last name, excuse me?
Waller, W-A-U-E-R.
War? I just want to make sure I say it right. Mr. War, good afternoon. Do you know a person by the name of Jeffrey Willis?
I knew him as Jeff, but yes.
Okay. And is that person in court today?
Yes.
Could you point him out and describe what he's wearing, please?
He's the man in the orange jumpsuit.
Your Honor, let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
The record will reflect identification.
And how do you know the defendant?
I played Friday Night Magic with him once a week, on and off, for about 10 or 15 years.
Okay. In particular, I want to draw your attention to April 26, 2013, in the evening hours. Do you recall either being a part of or playing the Magic card game that particular night?
I was not at the Magic card game that night. However, every time I would not be at a tournament, I usually was playing cards over at the big game room, which is in the same strip mall,
Okay.
about a football field length away, and during my breaks from the tournaments, I would go over and say hi to my friends
All right.
and acquaintances.
So just so I understand, the two card games are in different locations.
Yes.
Magic was played where?
Magic was played at Lang's Comics and Games.
And you were playing, what, poker or something?
Poker at the big game room.
All right. And they are, as you indicate, a football field's length away.
Roughly, yes.
All right. So on the 26th of April 2013, you were playing poker.
Yes.
Now, did you happen to go over to, I think you indicated on your breaks you would go over to Lang's?
Correct.
And on that particular night, did you see the defendant at Lang's?
Yes.
And do you recall approximately the time frames that you saw the defendant at Lang's playing cards?
The breaks would be every hour and 15 minutes. Tournament started at 7, so I would walk over probably about 8:15 to 8:20, and then probably about 9:45, 9:50.
Okay. And on both of those breaks, the 8:20 break, did you see the defendant at Lang's?
Yes. I asked him what he was playing.
And they were playing Magic or whatever?
Yeah, I asked him what his deck was probably.
Okay. Then the next break you said was what, 9:45, 9:50?
Right.
And did you walk over to Lang's, and did you see the defendant at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did after that 9:45, 9:50 time frame, did you go back over to Lang's at any point in time after that?
No, I did not, because generally speaking, the card tournament would be done between 10:30 and 10:45 for Lang's, and I'd probably still be in the poker tournament at Big Game Room, or I would be otherwise probably playing in the cash game.
That brings another question in my head. You play both, obviously. You were playing poker at the time, and you were also playing this Magic.
I was not playing Magic that night.
I know, but you have played it in the past.
Yes.
Okay. And have you participated in these Magic tournaments that would happen at Lang's in the past?
Yes.
And do they usually happen around the same time?
Yes.
And I don't know if I asked you this question, but typically what time does a Magic tournament start?
The Magic tournaments at Lang's were starting at, I believe, 6:30 at the time, or 7 o'clock.
All right, and thank you for referencing 2013. And typically, on an average, they would finish at what time? Again, 2013?
Anytime between 10 and 11:30.
Okay. Since April 26, 2013, have you seen the defendant at Lang's or in that area playing either, I don't know if he plays poker, but playing poker or playing Magic?
I recall seeing him only one time after April 26, 2016.
2016 or 13?
2013, my apologies.
That's okay. One time. Do you remember when that was?
I probably was a couple weeks later. I asked him what was up because he was talking to the person who handles the cards
who handled like the tournaments there and handles the buying and selling of the cards, he said, you know, he's like, yeah, I'm just getting really bored of Magic. And so he was kind of like selling a bunch of cards, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ware. I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
Cross, Mr. Hostica.
Afternoon, Mr. Ware.
Afternoon.
Am I saying that right?
War.
War. So you recall seeing Mr. Willis once after April 26, 2013?
Yes.
And you believe that you learned at that time that Mr. Willis was basically quitting Magic?
Well, it's a hobby few people actually fully ever quit. But from my understanding, he was getting out of the game, correct?
Selling cards?
Yes.
Okay. Minor detail about April 26th, maybe minor, maybe not, but is it true you were there playing a game called Ascension on April 26th?
No.
You're sure?
Yes, I was definitely playing poker over at the big game room.
Okay, how can you be sure?
Because if I was playing Magic, I would be at Lang's. If I was playing poker, I would be at the big game room. Sometimes I would also play a side game of Ascension during Magic, but if I was there, I would have been there the entire night, and I was playing poker that night.
Okay, fair enough. What time of night do you recall seeing Mr. Willis?
I recall seeing him around 8:30 and again around 9:45.
In the same place?
In Lang's, yes.
Playing cards?
Yes.
Did he have a beard and a mustache back then?
He had light facial hair, I think.
You don't remember?
His facial hair, I've known him for a long time, and a lot of times things like facial hair don't really register with me with people I consider acquaintances.
Okay. You think, but you don't know.
Well,
Is that your answer?
Yes,
Other than, you think he had, other than light facial hair?
correct.
Okay. Magic games, you said, end what time?
Between 10 to 11:30 back then.
Have they ever been known to carry on beyond that time?
At the time, the person who ran the tournament was being very vocal about us staying too late. We were not staying past 11 if at all possible.
Okay. Are there records as to when these games end? Do you know?
There are not records as to when they end per se. I do know that Wizards of the Coast keeps records of the tournaments as they are recorded. So I don't know if there's an exact record saying what time the tournament would end.
Thank you. No further questions.
I have nothing else, Judge.
Right, Mr. Ward, I have no questions. May the witness be excused.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Wilson, Mr. Hofstra,
Yes, Your Honor.
the witness is excused. You can stand down, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the people of the state of Michigan call Deputy Scott Foster to the stand.
Raise your right hand. Matter not putting close court, solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, state your name and profession for the record.
Deputy Scott Foster from Muskegon County Sheriff's Office.
Deputy Foster, how many years have you been a deputy sheriff?
16.
And I want to direct your attention to June 29th, 2014. Were you on duty that night around 6 o'clock?
Yes, I was.
And do you recall being dispatched to the area of Automobile Road?
I do.
And what was the purpose of that?
I was dispatched for what was believed to be an automobile accident.
Now, an Automobile Road, that's here in the county of Muskegon, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you got to the scene itself, what did you observe?
There were several people standing around outside. There was an ambulance on scene, fire was on scene. It was still kind of chaotic at the time.
And do you recall seeing any observations of potential evidence?
Yes, I found on the side of the road, on the north side of the road, I found it'd be the east side of the road, I found like an armband and headphones and sunglasses kind of in a pile along the side of the road. And then I also observed a .22 shell casing in the southbound lane of automobile.
Did you observe, I guess what would be the opposite side of the road from the armband, sunglasses, any blood stains?
Yes.
All right. Now, the victim of this particular crime, was that person still on scene?
On scene, yes.
All right, but I guess a good answer to kind of a bad question. Was the person still where the original folks had found her?
No.
All right, where was she?
In an ambulance.
Now, at some point in time, did you make an observation as to who that person was?
Yes, I did.
Who?
Rebecca Bletch.
And did you get an opportunity to observe in the ambulance any potential injuries to Miss Bletch?
I did.
In particular, did you observe any wounds to her head?
Yes.
What did you see?
There were two wounds, one by the ear and then one kind of on the top of the head that I saw.
And what did those wounds appear to be to you?
They appeared to be bullet wounds to me.
And I think you already indicated that you observed a single shell casing kind of in the southbound lane of automobile, is that correct?
Correct.
And I apologize, you may have said this, but did you observe potentially what caliber that was?
Yeah, it was clearly a .22.
Okay. I want to show you a couple of pictures here, Deputy. We're going to start with People's Exhibit 14. What's that a photograph of?
The earbuds and armband and that was on the side of the road.
And and is that how it looked kind of to you when you saw it on the road there?
Yes.
Okay. People's Exhibit 15. What is that a picture of?
Looks like to be blood stains.
And are those the blood stains you described on the other side of Automobile Road from that armband and earbuds?
Yes.
People's Exhibit 16 is a picture of Miss Bletch's head. Can you make a determination?
Mr. Hilson, on the screen is the remaining circle that
Can you tap
that
the
Corporal Hooksema had left on there.
bottom
from the previous
corner?
testimony.
Bottom corner.
Bottom corner?
Yeah.
Right or left?
Be your left. I think. Nope. There. So.
Thank you.
Now, does this depict any of the bullet wounds that you observed?
It's kind of hard to tell from the picture. I don't know.
I guess my question...
It's hard to tell
Okay.
from the picture.
My question, sir, is and I think you've already testified to this, but you saw at least two
Yes.
entrance
Yes.
wounds?
Yes.
People's Exhibit 17, what are we looking at in this photograph?
22 shell casing.
And again, is that the .22 shell casing you observed in the, I think you just, as you described it, the southbound lane of Automobile Road?
Yes,
And then finally, People's Exhibit 18,
with the circle around it, yes.
that's where it was originally found?
Yes, that's why it was circled there.
Okay. Other than that, Deputy Foster, did you have any other involvement in this particular investigation? Besides the initial scene work that you did?
No.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Cross, Mr. Hostetler.
Just one question. What side of the head did you say those wounds were?
I didn't say.
Do you know?
I believe the one behind the ear was the right side, and the other one was kind of the top of the head.
Okay. No further questions.
I have no follow-up questions, Judge.
Nor do I. Deputy Foster, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This be excused.
Yes.
Mr. Hostetler?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're excused, Deputy Foster, thank you.
People of the state of Michigan call Brian Harris to the stand.
Go ahead and raise your right hand. You are now putting before the court, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, say your name and your career.
Brian Harris.
Mr. Harris, back in 2014, who were you working for?
Muskegon County Sheriff's Department.
And in what capacity were you working for in the Sheriff's Department?
I was in the Detective Bureau.
And since that day, you've since retired, is that correct?
It is correct.
Now, you assisted in processing the scene on Automobile Road, in particular June 29th, 2014, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as a result, we've had some testimony from Deputy Foster about finding a shell casing in the kind of the center of Automobile.
That's correct.
You recall that?
I do.
In fact, there's a picture. This is People's Exhibit 18. Does that look about right?
That looks about right, yes.
And you were the one that collected that, is that correct?
Correct.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 64 for this prelim. You recognize that, sir?
Yes.
And is that the shell casing that that was seized from Automobile Road?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in your search of the area, did you find a second shell casing on the 29th?
That's correct.
Showing you what's marked as People's Exhibit 19, the photograph. Does that look familiar?
Yes.
Placard 5?
Yep.
And that's marking what, sir?
That was the second shell casing that we found that was off the road on the west side a little bit.
Okay. Showing you People's 20, that picture. Does that
Yeah,
look-
yes, that's the shell in question.
Now, I'm going to kind of jump forward and then jump back here. At some point in time, did you come into information about a potential third shell casing?
Yes.
Okay, and was that particular day or was that a different day?
I think it was the next day.
As a result of that, did you go back out to the scene on Automobile Road?
I did. We had plans on going back anyways to follow up one longer day and more daylight.
Now, on your review or cursory review of the scene again, did you come across another shell casing?
We did.
All right. I'm going to show you here what's marked as People's Exhibit 21. You recognize that placard?
Yeah, I placed it there.
Okay. And I'm assuming that the arrow is pointing to the shell casing in the weeds,
Correct.
showing you what's marked as People's 22.
Yes, that's it.
That's it? Okay. All right, showing you what's marked as People's Exhibit 65. That envelope contains what?
That is the third casing we found on the 30th.
Does that also include the one other casing?
Actually, that was in the first one you handed me.
Okay. So
There was,
the first
there was
one had
two from the 29th and whatever that exhibit is, 64, and one in the one you just gave me.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, are you aware, Mr. Harris, that an autopsy was performed on
Yes.
Ms. Bletch?
Yes.
And from that autopsy, were you made aware of additional evidence gathered?
Yes.
What else was gathered?
Bullet fragments?
And those ended up being turned over to you, is that correct?
I believe so. Detective Gabriel seized a bunch of stuff from the autopsy. I think maybe he actually collected it. I'm not crystal clear. I can't remember.
Okay. I'm going to hand you a couple different exhibits here in just a second.
While he's doing that, Mr. Harris, there were 3 shell casings that we've been talking about at the scene. One is on the road, the southbound lane, right? The second one you said was on the west side of the road?
Correct.
And then the third one was where?
Also the west side of the road,
Okay, where in relation to the second one on the west side of the road?
within a couple of feet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's start with 67. People 67 is what?
The bullet and bullet fragments.
And that's what was collected from the autopsy of Rebecca Bletch, is that correct?
Correct.
And people 66 is what?
It's a autopsy report.
And is that the autopsy report for Rebecca Bletch?
It is Rebecca Bletch, yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of people 66, the autopsy report.
For purposes of the preliminary exam, Judge, I don't object.
All right, 66 will be received.
In that autopsy report now as evidence, does it indicate cause and manner of death for Rebecca Bletch?
I'm sure it does. I would have to go through it to look it up.
Here, let me help you.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it indicate cause?
Yes, it says cause of death, multiple gunshot wounds of head.
And manner?
Homicide.
Just for the record too, just so that I'm clear, people 64, 65, and 67 were all collected either by you or turned over to you to process as evidence, is that correct?
Correct.
Mayor, I move for the admission of 64, 65, and 67. No objection.
There being no objection to people's proposed 64, 65, and 67, they'll be received as evidence.
Further, Judge, I'm going to move for the admission of the pictures now, 14, 15. I'm going to remove 16. So 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22.
No objection.
I wasn't following you on the numbers, Mr. Hilton, I apologize.
That's okay. I
One
can repeat them for you.
One more time.
All right, for the pictures only, Judge, you got the other ones?
I've got 64, 65, 66, and 67.
Okay.
I'm with you on those.
All right.
Physical pieces of evidence, but on the photographs,
Exhibit 14 and 15.
and which one is 14?
14 is the armband and
Okay.
sunglasses and earbuds.
Gotcha.
15 would be the pictures of the bloodstains on the side of the road. I'm not admitting 16.
All right.
17 is a close-up of the shell casing found on Automobile Road.
On the southbound lane?
Yes.
All right, gotcha.
18 is a more wider shot of the shell casing within the circle.
Yep.
19 is a picture, a wide picture of where the second shell casing was found. 20 is a close-up of that shell casing. 21 is a wide shot of where the third shell casing was found. And 22 is a close-up of that shell casing.
Very well. And you're moving for those
Yes.
items to be admitted, Mr. Hostica?
No objection.
There being no objection to 14, 15, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, those items will be received as evidence.
I have no additional questions of this witness, Judge.
Cross, Mr. Hostica.
Thank you, Your Honor. Afternoon, Detective Harris.
Afternoon.
I want to ask you some questions about the autopsy report. There are some indications in the autopsy report of blunt force injuries, starting on page 6 on Mrs. Bletch's body, that Dr. Shattuck identified. Do you agree?
Yes.
Now, you, as part of your investigation, wanted to clear up what these could be, right?
I did ask.
Okay. And when you spoke with Dr. Shattuck, she indicated that there's nothing in the bruisings or abrasions that would indicate being bound or handcuffed or otherwise restrained in any way, correct?
She did say there was nothing to certainly identify that. That she admitted there was bruises, but they could have been from the fall.
Right. In fact, that's what she thought they were from, correct?
That's what she told me, yes.
Okay. Nothing in any bruising had any pattern that would indicate anything different?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, sir.
Detective Harris, I have no questions. May the witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're excused. Thank you.
Your Honor, this may be a good point to take a quick break, and I'll explain on sidebar why.
All right. So 15?
Whatever the court desires.
I'd be taking a 15-minute break within the next 20 minutes. This is as good a time as any.
Okay.
All right. We're going to break until 10 minutes after 3, and we'll resume at 3:10 p.m.